In this video, I'm going to try and design and build a web page in under 10 minutes. Now 10 minutes really isn't a great deal of time to actually do this, so we won't be winning any awards for the best looking website in the world, but it should serve as a great overview of the entire development process from design through to completion. We'll be starting in Photoshop, where we create a layout and add a bit of content, and then we'll write the HTML where we add structure and the content, and then we'll add CSS to actually style that HTML so that it looks like the Photoshop file. If there's time, we'll actually add some JavaScript as well, just to spice things up a bit. Now, if you're a beginner watching this, the point of this video is just to give you the full development overview, and it's the same process I'd expect you to go through when you're creating your own websites, where you start in Photoshop, write your HTML and your CSS and all that stuff. So once you finish the course, you should be able to come back to this video, fully understanding everything I've been doing, and give yourself a great big pat on the back in the process. So I've actually got here a file that I've already saved off, index.html. This will be the one file I write all my code in, including the HTML, the CSS, and any JavaScript we add. And over here I've got that file loaded into my web browser so that I can refresh the page every now and again and check on my progress. Now if I jump on over to Photoshop, you'll notice I do actually have one image already created, and this is the course logo that I've already created in the past. And given my time constraints, I decided it'd be best if I just use this in my design rather than try and create this from scratch, because I really am pressed for time. So with that said, let's go over here, and here's my timer. I've given myself 10 minutes. You'll see this counts down in this tab here. So let's get started. Okay, so let's move into Photoshop. We're going to create a new document, 800 pixels wide. That's our working width. We don't have much content, so it makes sense to make it a fairly small width site so everything's not so sparse. Now I'm going to increase the width to 1600 pixels, and that's just to give it more of a desktop kind of size, so we can work out the design best in Photoshop. Okay, I quite like sites where you have like the top half of the page is quite, solid in colour, and then the content's on a white background, so that's what I'm doing here. That's me, Matthew Brummitt. Now every site I tend to build always has an H1 tag, very important for Google SEO, and this, what I'm writing here, represents it. It's come out in white, but I will change that to the same grey from the header. Get a nice big font size for the H1. And I guess it would be a good idea to create a list, sort of a bulleted list for the HTML. Give you a little sample of that. And obviously there's loads more, so guess maybe a good idea to get a link in there as well. And I guess it actually be quite nice to add a graph image perhaps, or some kind of, any kind of image really, but a graph makes sense. Show your skills going from 0 all the way to the top. And that one's quite nice. Let's copy that into Photoshop. Of course you could have just copied and pasted that image, but I've dragged it in this way, probably wasting precious seconds. Okay, so we plonk that on the right, and what's next? I guess we should put a footer in. And say thank you for taking this course. Alright, so I think that probably does it. That's enough content for now. I wonder how much time we've actually got left. But you can see, yeah, it's got various different elements on the page. Let's go and write the HTML. So declaring a doc type, that's very, very important. And I'm just going to block out the HTML tags, the most basic tags that you'd expect to find in any HTML document. Your title tag, that's what sets the tab or sort of browser window bar at the top. Alright, so here's where we actually start writing our own, HTML tag. So our header does contain an image of which is our logo, and where did I put my name? So give myself a div with class author. And these class names can be anything you like. I've just decided to call it author because it makes sense. With restricting the width to 800 pixels on the main body of the content. So let's have a look. Stick this h1 tag in. In fact, I'll move all of the HTML content. I'll write all the HTML content and add tags afterwards. Just indent that. Indentation is very important as well. Helps you see the structure of the page a lot easier than if it's all in line with each other. And every list needs LIs to determine the bullets. Copy and paste, making that a lot quicker. How are we doing for time? I've still got 5 minutes. And there's our footer class, and forgot to add the graph. So that's really all of our main content that I wrote in Photoshop. So now comes the styling part, where we actually, tell the browser how to display our content. So we gave it a background color. Let's go and pick that up again. Yep. I really am guesstimating on the actual pixel values for the padding and margin and stuff like that, because I don't have the time to, if I'm going to try and cram this into 10 minutes, I don't have the time to actually set that exactly and double check on it, but it should be close enough. So our HTML and body tag, we want to set the margin to 0 so that there's no default space between the site and the design. I have Arial as a standard font family, and add a little bit of spacing between the author and the logo. Okay, so our h1 tag, I think 34 was the exact value I gave. And obviously we want to center that text, so also actually, yeah, the HTML and body tag wants to be centered so that the overall site can be positioned in the center. So it's not looking fantastic right now, but we haven't got the images in yet, so that could come to life as soon as we've done that. Save these off now. Save for web, make sure it's all nicely compressed as best as possible. And do the same for the logo. That was a bit of a rough cut paste, so I'll just trim that. And alright, so it's coming along. Let's get that footer in, because that really makes a big difference to how it looks in the end. Okay, so I'm just adding an extra sort of clearing thing because I did float the graph above, which sometimes can cause other elements to misbehave. So adding a clear fix ensures that the footer will sit underneath the graph and take on any margin and padding I've given, or margin, sorry, specifically. Anchor tag wants to be orange in colour, so let's just set that quickly. Oh, we're less than a minute to go, so just got to hurry. You really want to add some JavaScript as well, actually. Let's get we'll get the jQuery library from Google. It's hosted by Google on their CDN. Let's quickly get this on. So what we're going to do is select the body. We'll fade out the website and fade it back in when the page loads. Something nice and simple but shows something happening. We've got 10 seconds left. Pressure's getting to me. And if you've got a keen eye, you'd just see that we've just pretty much overrun on the time. But this is literally the last line I need to work on, so let's just add it. Right, let's see how it looks. And there's the finished site. Looks pretty much like the Photoshop file, as best as I can do in 10 minutes. And there we are, links working. If you refresh the page a few times, you should be able to see that the site fades out and fades back in again. So hopefully that gave you a good overview of the design and development process in a very short space of time, and really kind of whet your appetite as to what you could build given much more time once you know how. Thanks a lot.